Hi, this is Ron from POCculture.com.
Great
Gene,
What's up,
background.
man?
Yeah, good to see you, man. Thank you so much for doing this.
oh my
You got
gosh,
a lot of people love you apparently.
well, the feeling is mutual all around, so it's so exciting to speak with you. Speaking of love, Gene, you already know how I feel about your work, so we're going to try not to fanboy too much. But in your wildest dreams, would you have imagined you're going to be at the White House screening a series based on your book?
No, no. I've said this already, but that was very extra. That was very, very like there's no way you could think that, right? Or imagine that or even dream that. It was so amazing. It was an amazing night. Kelvin and I were both there. I'm sorry, Melvin and I were both there. Kelvin was there too. And Dustin and a bunch of people who put so much of themselves into that show. And just to watch that with the president was once in a lifetime experience.
It was inspiring for me to see and follow along on socials. It was really great. Now, Melvin, you've done some amazing things. You're building a little bit of an empire here in terms of pushing diverse projects, especially on Disney Plus, which I appreciate. What made American Born Chinese the project that you wanted to do next?
Um, I've wanted to do American Born Chinese in some form since 2006, the first time that I read the graphic novel. And for a long time, sporadically throughout 10 years, would reach out to Gene's publisher. And all I would hear was, he's not interested. And it wasn't until I met Gene through a mutual friend that was putting on a panel. And we kind of hit it off and we started, talking and chatting. And he called me a couple months after meeting him and just said, I think I want to do it now. You want to do it with me? I'm like, yes, I do. It's been 10 years, Gene. And then we set off to make this thing and added my good friend Kelvin Yu, who just, the two of them got along so well. And I could just tell that, like, it's going to be the nucleus of something special, and it has to be that, if you've been a part of adapting anything, the key is like the two creative principles, like how are they going to work together? And these guys are like brothers. It's really kind of great.
Oh my goodness, it's like the Asian Avengers that you've put together here for this project.
Well, it's certainly the Asian American All Star game, both in front of and behind the camera, is like the idea. So
It shows. It's been great. Now, Gene, I have to follow up. So, why didn't you want to do this at first, and what changed your mind?
I was freaked out about it. I was freaked out in large part because of the cousin character in the graphic novel. He is intentionally offensive. He's supposed to be a representation of all of the stereotypes that we grew up with, that haunted us since we were kids. And I was always very worried that if it got adapted to the screen, decontextualized clips of that character would show up on YouTube. And it would be the exact opposite of what I was trying to do with him in the book. Kelvin Yu, really smart guy. What he did was he took that fear and he made it a plot point in the very first episode. So it's sort of like he's educating the reader on how to react to that character. So it was conversations with Melvin and Kelvin that really convinced me that now is the time to do it. That this was the team. This was the team to do it.
I'm glad they did. Now, Gene, speaking of the story, there are some substantial changes to the book, which I love so much. How did you, come to terms with that? How did you tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think of this as it's not a direct adaptation. It's an adjacent adaptation, and there are decisions that we made very early on that necessitated a lot of these changes. One is the fact that it's going to be an 8-episode television show. Hopefully more than 8 episodes, but 8 episodes at least. And every episode has to have a beginning, middle, and end. The book, 3 storylines, but I would still argue it has one beginning, middle, and end, right? So you have to expand the world to accommodate all those different beginnings, middles, and ends. The second decision we made was to update the story. The story in the book is in the 80s, 90s, vaguely in the 80s and 90s. The story in the show is now. It's in the 2020s. And the conversation around our community, around Asian Americans, has changed from then until now. So by doing an adjacent adaptation, my hope is that if you read the book and watch the show, the two pieces will be in dialogue with each other. And that dialogue will say something about what's happened to us in those 17 years.
Oh my God. That's awesome. Well, That's my time. Asian All Stars. Thank you all for the time, and this is an awesome show, and I can't wait till season 2, 3, maybe more.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron.
Thank you.
I see why people love you.
I appreciate you, Melvin. Thank you, guys.
All right, man.